A lot of people want to know, where is the best place to live in Mexico? Well, the answer is simple. It depends upon you. There is no one right place, but Mexico's right for a lot of people. Let's just try and figure out what's the right place for you. Each person has their own unique wants and needs. No place is right for everyone. So you have to decide, what is paradise to you? What is your dream location? And remember, we're searching for paradise. We're not searching for utopia. There will always be trade-offs. But we want to explore your fundamental interests of you and what you want in your life and your values and your needs in your life stage and your age where you are today, to figure out what's best for you in terms of honing in on a wonderful location in Mexico. We're at really an exciting point in our life. For the first time in practically forever, many people are geographically untethered from the workplace. That means we don't have to be physically located where our jobs are, and that gives us a lot of freedom. In the past, moving to Mexico was basically left only to snowbirds and retirees, people who no longer needed to work. Today, with the virtual jobs out there and the ability to work remotely, you can really choose to live anywhere you want at any age and any life stage. So you can now scour the whole world to determine exactly where the perfect location is for you. So I want to know, why do you live where you do right now? A lot of times we never think about the why of where we are. And for a lot of people, they don't really consciously choose where they live. People live where they do because of external considerations. A lot of times it was because I was born there, or I went to school here, or you moved for a job. Maybe it's even your husband's job or a spouse's job, but employment really drove the decision to live someplace. Maybe you have family located there. Either your family grew up there, or you have children and grandchildren that you want to be part of their lives. Or you might be caring for an elderly parent who does not want to move, does not want to leave, and so you're staying with the elderly parent, trying to help them accommodate their needs. For a lot of people, it's just, I'm used to it. For some people, it's a low cost of living. Rural areas in the United States are less expensive than high-demand urban areas. Employment and employability, the market for employment is really important. For some people, it's medical care. You want to be near a specialized medical facility for a child or a family member that has special needs. It might be because your spouse wants to live there, or other family members, and so you come along not fulfilling your needs, but fulfilling their needs. And so those are some of the reasons why you might live where you do right now. Not a lot of people go through life and say, I've searched the whole world over and I've found that one wonderful place that fills me with joy, that makes my heart sing, gives me peace, joy, and happiness. And today you can make that choice. You can be the person who says, I'm living here because I choose to, and this is my happy place. It gives me joy. So one of the things that I have found in my work with coaching people moving overseas and moving to Mexico is that there's 12 key criteria that you need to really carefully evaluate to help you, really find the right place for you. Mexico is a very big country. Lots and lots of states, of cities, of miles and miles of beaches. It's a huge country. So it's kind of like saying, where do you want to live in the United States? Well, where do you want to live in Mexico? There's lots of options. So I've kind of categorized 12 different things that you ought to consider, considerations or criteria that will help you find and define what's right for you. So the first one is affordability, and that's what most people think about moving to Mexico because it is such a low-cost market. It is a key advantage that Mexico has over the United States. You can choose higher cost of living markets. You could choose to live in London or Tokyo or Rome. Those are special, wonderful places, and they all have high quality of life, but they're also going to be more expensive. Mexico offers the ability to slash your living expenses overall between half and as much as 2/3 of what you're paying right now to live a nice life. And so you have a couple of options. Number one, you could live better on less money, or you could extend the financial resources that you have over a longer period of time. So those are some things to look at. Tim Ferriss, when he wrote the bestseller, The 4-Hour Work Week, talked about geo-arbitrage, and that is the ability to leverage location to live better, to make your dollars go further. And that's what we're talking about here. In Mexico, you can survive on a $1,500 a month quite comfortably. $2,000 a month, you could live well. On $2,500 or $3,000, you could live really, really, really well. You could live in a lovely home, upscale neighborhood, have lots of luxuries. So when you compare what you're paying right now to what you're paying in Mexico, there's huge cost advantages. So you want to ask yourself some questions that will help you figure out, is this important to me? How important is cost of living? What is your monthly budget? How are you going to pay for your living expenses? Are you going to need to work or want to work to cover your expenses? And if so, what kind of work are you going to do, and how is that going to affect your cost of living? The second thing to consider is climate, and climate is so important. I personally love warm weather. I never want to live in snow and cold again. I have chosen to live on a beautiful white sandy beach island in the Caribbean called Isla Mujeres off the coast of Cancun. Mexico has a lot of tropical warm weather areas. It's got 6,000 miles of beaches, and they're all south of the United States, and so they're all in warm weather climates. There are inland temperate regions in the mountains in colonial Mexico. Mexico City is a mile-high city. It's cool there most of the year. There are ski slopes in Mexico, although not very many. They're in the Sierra Nevada, and there's high mountains, and there's plains, and there's some temperate areas. So you get to choose the climate that you want. One of the things that's related to climate is allergies. So maybe you suffer from seasonal allergies. Like I developed terrible seasonal allergies in January, February, and March in South Texas to cedar pollen, and it was horrible. Now I live on a beach. There's no cedar trees here. We have fresh ocean breezes. Never have had a problem with those horrible allergies anymore. So those are some of the things that you might want to consider. What kind of climate you like, what kind of climate you hate. And do you want the same climate year-round, or do you want different seasons? And do all of your family members want the same kind of climate? Or, maybe your husband likes to ski and he likes the cold and you like the warm. How are you going to reconcile those differences with where you live? So those are some of the things you might want to consider. The third point to consider is the ease of legal immigration. You need to make sure that you can immigrate legally, and there's lots of different ways to get residency, but you really need to be looking at getting residency because you cannot be guaranteed that when you come across the border into Mexico, you're going to get an automatic 6-month visa like you used to be. You used to have a tourist entry, 6 months, no problem, and many, many people spent decades coming to Mexico 6 months a year as a snowbird and leaving. That's changed recently. The government really wants those people who spend a significant amount of time here to register legally so they can have them on their books and know who's here. So make sure you really understand the legal immigration. Make sure that you can get that before you decide where to live. And the fourth thing that's really important is understanding health care and medical access. The good news is Mexico has quality, affordable access to health care. Very good private health care and surprisingly good public health care. In general, the cost of health care and medical care is between 1/4 and 1/10 of the cost it is in the US. It's absolutely mind-boggling. The U.S. is the #1 most expensive healthcare market in the world, and it comes in number 43 in terms of quality of care delivered by some international quality of care standards. In Mexico, there's a lot of medical tourism because it is so cost effective. People come here for elective surgery, for plastic surgery, for dental work, for bariatric surgery, for in vitro fertilization, for cancer treatment. There's a whole bunch of people who come, and there's a whole industry of medical tourism because the cost is so low. There is very good urgent and emergency care. in your local government-run hospitals is free or very low cost. I think looking at healthcare and access to medical care is really very important. And it's going to be impacted by your age, the age of family members, what kind of health insurance you currently have. If you have Medicare in the United States, you're golden. You can get the Medicare Advantage plan. Otherwise, you need to look at cost of living. And, what are you going to budget? Most people here in Mexico pay for routine medical care without insurance. It is so inexpensive. A doctor's visit is $25. Labs might be $50 or $100. Prescriptions are about 10% of what they are in the United States. So there's lots of things that are much less expensive in the United States and better quality or equal quality. You might have telehealth access to your current medical plan that allows you access to your U.S. doctor and prescriptions. So think about chronic medical conditions and any special medical needs that you may have as you evaluate moving to Mexico, and which areas are going to provide that specialized care for you. I think the fifth area you want to look at is safety. A lot of people talk about or are concerned that Mexico is dangerous, and anytime there is a shooting of 2 gang members in Cancun, it's international news and everybody's worried about it, up in the arm. When you look at it, 50 people or more are shot every weekend in Chicago, and it's not international news, and we don't have alerts saying, don't go to Chicago because it's not safe. Well, that's kind of the way it is in Mexico. There are gangs here. There are high-risk areas, but they tend to be rural areas, and they tend to be areas around the border. So border has people coming in illegally. They have drugs being smuggled. They have people being smuggled. Lots of stuff happen at the border. But in the tourist areas, the crime rate is very low because it's such a priority for the police, because tourism is so important to Mexico that they put all these extra police in the tourist areas to make sure that crime doesn't interfere with tourism. When there are crimes against expats, they tend to be property-oriented theft, credit card theft, somebody breaking into your house, going over the wall and stealing your electronics, minor things like that. Very little violent theft, rape, murder of expats is very, very rare. In fact, most expats, including myself, feel safer in Mexico than they do back in the United States, for a number of reasons. Number one, I live in an area that's kind of a small town. My neighbors all know me. It's a residential neighborhood. We live on an island where access is limited. There are cameras on the ferry, so people know when people are coming in and out. So it's much safer in many ways than it would be in the U.S. And I walk at night. I walk my dog. I'll go out in the evening to dinner or a restaurant. I'll drive by myself with absolutely no fear of violent crime. And I can't always say that in the United States. So look at your local safety indices. Talk to other expats, see what they have to say. And, it's really going to depend on if you live in a primarily tourist or expat area. And make sure that you're not doing at-risk activities like consuming and buying drugs. Is a high-risk activity that puts you in contact with drug dealers, so you may not want to do that. The sixth thing to consider is lifestyle. So think about what lifestyle that you want. What kind of activities do you plan to engage in? Do you like to go hiking? Do you like to go to the gym? Do you like to go climbing mountains? Do you like to go to the beach? I like to go to the beach. I'm a beach lover. I want to go to the beach. I want to look at the ocean. I want to watch the sunset. I never want to be cold. Being at the beach gives me joy. So I have chosen a beach lifestyle. I'm very social. I like to go out for dinner with friends. I like live music. I like to watch the sunset, have friends over for dinner. So I'm very social. And at my age, this is the lifestyle that I choose. I'm quieter than I was before. 20 years ago, I probably would have wanted to live in Cancun or a bigger city with, nightclubs and theaters and things going on and fancy restaurants. That's not where I'm at today. So in my age and my life stage, this is where I want. So you have to make the choice of where you are in your life, what your preferences are. I live in a little island called Isla Mujeres, which is a much smaller kind of a fishing village, with lots of tourists and activities for tourists. I was at Playa del Carmen for 2 weeks, about 2 months ago, and it was just too big. It had 300 or 400,000 people. There are highways, there's roads, there's fancy nightclubs, there's restaurants, there's all sorts of shopping and activity. I don't need to do a lot of shopping in my life. Shopping's not important for me. Big malls and designer stores don't matter to me today. For other people, they might be important. So you have to look at your age, your life stage, and figure out what kind of lifestyle. Do you want to live in a gated community? A lot of people do. That's a pretty nice lifestyle for a lot of people. You don't need to speak a lot of Spanish. You can surround yourself by other expats and people in the same socioeconomic group. You might want to live in a local neighborhood like I do, and I have wonderful Mexican friends. My neighbors are all Mexican. There are no other Americans who live on the street. So figure out what kind of a dwelling, what kind of a home. Are you going to buy a house? Are you going to rent an apartment? Do you want to live in a gated community? How many bedrooms do you need? Are you going to make money out of your dwelling, like having an Airbnb, or are you just going to take care of yourself? Do you want an American-style home with American-style appliances, or you're more comfortable living on the economy in a Mexican-style house? I do. I mean, would I love to have fancy granite countertops and beautiful cabinetry? Sure, but I'm not willing to pay for it at this point. And so I can live very well without that. So think about the lifestyle and the life stage you're at. Are you going to be inside the house for inside the comforts of your house is important? You want to be outside, enjoying nature, enjoying the beach, enjoying sunsets. Are you going to live on patios and outside, or be inside most of the time? Are you a homebody or a social butterfly? What kind of activities do you want? Is golfing important? Well, then you're going to want to live near a golf community. If you like to sail and scuba, then you're going to need to live near the beach. So figure out what kind of activities are important to you that you do both in the day and the night, and how social you are, and kind of figure out what the perfect weekday and a weekend would be for you, and how your family members want to do, and try and figure out what your lifestyle is going to be like in Mexico, and then that will help you pick the right location. The seventh point to discover or to discuss, is culture. And living overseas and living in Mexico means you're going to be confronted with a completely different culture. You're going to have a different language. You have a completely different history. You have a different legal system more like the European system and not the American legal system. You have different history and arts and science and music. So some people really value the local culture and other people don't feel comfortable. So understanding the culture and the cultural differences and whether you're going to be able to embrace them or they don't feel comfortable, you will really decide whether you move to Mexico and where. Is the art and the theater important to you? If so, you want to be in major urban areas that are going to have those kind of amenities. So think about how important those things are to you. Are you open and interested in exploring the local culture, or you want to just kind of hunker down and just take advantage of the lower cost of living? Do you feel comfortable in new situations, or are you going to feel overwhelmed when you are confronted by the cultural differences? Do you enjoy new foods and new experiences? That's something in the culture. The food is going to be totally different in Mexico. Do you like to travel and do you like to visit new locations, or are you more of a homebody? Those are things that are going to help you figure out the best location for you. The eighth point to consider is accessibility. And that means how far away you are, how much time, how much access to medical care. Lots of different things are involved in accessibility. So how important is it to be physically near your home country? Are you happy to travel the world and live far away? Some of the things to consider are services and transportation. Are you close to airports? To me, I'm an hour away from one of the biggest airports in the world. From Cancun Airport, I can fly anywhere in the world, generally nonstop or just one stop. If you live in Tulum, you might be 4 hours away from a major airport. If you live in Holbox, which is north of here, you're 4 hours away from the closest airport. I don't want to live that far away. I have too many people visit. I travel. I want to be close to an airport. I want to be close to medical facilities. I want to be close to dental facilities. In Mexico, I can be in Houston or in Miami in 2 hours. When I lived in Brazil, it was 8 to 10 hours. So time difference is important. Mexico has the same 4 time zones. So if your family is on the West Coast, then maybe you want to immigrate to the West Coast because you'll be more in the same time zone and more synced with that. If you come from the East Coast or the Midwest, maybe you're more interested in the eastern side, the Gulf of Mexico, as things to consider. and how accessible in terms of cost is the travel. Low cost travel to Mexico is wonderful compared to travel to other countries. So think about those things. And then think about whether you want to be in an urban area, a rural area, or a beach. This is the kind of lifestyle that you would want. You know, you might want to be in a big city. Mexico City is an exciting, vibrant city. There's so much going on there. It's huge. I lived in Mexico City. I absolutely loved it way back then. I have been many times in Guadalajara, which is a beautiful city with lots of wonderful restaurants and in all sorts of wonderful historic areas around it, and the arts and the theater. Beautiful. I've been to Monterrey. Monterrey's up in the mountains. It's another city of about 7 million people. It's huge, has lots of good things. Or do you want to be in a smaller town, regional capital, or even a village, or like I am on a beach? That's kind of one of the lifestyle choices you need to make. I've lived in big cities before. I lived in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I lived in Los Angeles. Those are cities with 25 million people. I lived in Miami. Okay. I lived in Madrid, Spain. I've lived in big urban areas, but they're not right for me today. I'm ready for a more intimate location, smaller, slower, because that's who I am today. But I want you to really explore those options. And the good news is you get to choose all of those things. Isn't that exciting? It's really wonderful. The 10th thing to look at is language. How well do you currently speak Spanish? Do you want to learn the language? Can you read it or write it? Is it important to speak the language? Spanish is the third most frequently spoken native language in the world. You probably studied the basics of Spanish in high school. It does make a difference in your ability to be able to feel comfortable, to connect with the community, being able to speak Spanish. And most of the expats that I know here in Mexico are actively studying Spanish because they know how important it will be to make their lifestyle more comfortable, to be able to be fluent with the language. You get to choose if you want to live in a neighborhood that is more local, then you'll need more language skills. If you live in an expat community, maybe not so much. So there are different areas that you can live in that will impact your language skills. There are lots of low-cost and even free programs to learn and practice Spanish. Those things you might want to consider and make a commitment to learning the language. I believe will make your life happier. And if even one person in your family or group can comfortably communicate in Spanish, it could make a nice difference. The 11th point to think about is infrastructure. That includes physical infrastructure and communication services infrastructure. Phone, internet, water, electric, these are basic things that you need to know. One of the good news is that Mexico offers very low cost phone service. Everybody has a mobile phone here, very little local landline phone, and you can get service, and it's a pay-as-you-go service for as little as $10 to $20 a month now. When you look at people coming from Canada, their basic telephone is like $80 to $100 a month. That's a huge deal. You can get also good quality fiber optic cable and internet for much less money. I was paying about $225 a month in the US for Spectrum for internet and cable. Today I spend a little bit more than $100. I have high-speed internet that I can use for video calls and things like that, training, Zoom calls, webinars, and that costs me $75 a month because I have the need for higher speed than most people. And I have Expat TV, which gives me 1,000 different TV channels, and it's about $30 a month. So around $105 a month, I have replaced my $225 a month cable internet bill from the States. Physical infrastructure is also important in picking where you want to go. You want to live in a small area that doesn't have a lot of roads, highways, hospitals. I was in Tulum a couple months ago. It's beautiful, very much in demand, but it's growing so quickly they can't keep up with the infrastructure. The roads are pockmarked, there's unpaved roads, the city is expanding so much that it can't keep track with the infrastructure. That's something you might want to look at. And then the last thing that you want to look at is community. And do you want to live in an enclave with other expats, perhaps a gated community, 24-hour security, or do you want to live more in a Mexican neighborhood with Mexican neighbors, that you're part of a local Mexican community? That's a choice you get to make. I do. I have wonderful Mexican neighbors. I love the Mexican vendors come and bring me food to buy and take care of things. So it's really important that you understand what kind of community and how important community is to you. You can give back to the community. Are you interested in doing things that get you hooked into the community, that you work with Mexicans, that you work with the local population? Are you going to volunteer to the community, give back to like animal rescues, or volunteer at the diabetes clinic or the Red Cross, or kids and social programs, educational programs, the arts, crafts, helping disadvantaged people, people with medical needs? There's so many opportunities to get engaged with the community, and that's a wonderful opportunity for you to think about as you are, making your plan and choosing where you want to live. So thank you so much for being here. My name is Diane Huth. I'm the Runaway Sherpa. I live in Isla Mujeres, which is a white sandy beach island 7 miles due east of downtown Cancun, kind of where the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico meet. I want to help you successfully move to Mexico. So I've prepared an ebook or a guide, checklist, kind of a guide you can fill out with these 12 key considerations, and that will help you figure out what are the characteristics of Mexico that you want to live, so that you can be finding the right location for you. If you're interested, you can download it absolutely free of charge at www.whereisyourperfectparadise.com. I suggest that you print it out, and every family member take one, go away on your own, fill it out, write the answers to the questions that you need, because different family members have different needs. Then maybe you get back together and you all compare answers, so that you all share have a shared vision of where you want to go and what's important to you, so you don't have conflict later on saying, no, but this isn't what I wanted. So please think through these things. I want your move to be successful, and I appreciate you taking the time. If you found this video, that you liked it and found it of value, please share it with anybody that you think could benefit from it. Please like the video, and if you would subscribe and follow, because then I'll be able to send you messages when I have a new video, and there will be one coming up very shortly. In fact, tomorrow's video will be how much does it cost to live in Mexico? And I think you're going to be stunned by how low cost it is. I'm going to give you real life examples of my life moving from a low cost market of San Antonio, Texas, and moving to a little island in Mexico, which is a very popular tourist destination, and you will not be able to believe how low my cost of living is and how much I've saved. And I'm going to go through item by item, so you can help figure out what your kind of a budget would be on your lifestyle when you decide to move to Mexico.